1987 Philippine Constitution 1. Part 7. Article 11. Accountability of public officers. Nature of public office. Public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. Officers removable by impeachment. 1. President. 2. Vice President. 3. Members of the Supreme Court. 4. Members of the Constitutional Commissions. 5. The Ombudsman. Grounds for impeachment. A. Culpable violation of the Constitution. B. Treason. C. Bribery. D. Graft and corruption. E. Betrayal of public trust. E. Other high crimes. House of Representatives exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment. The House of Representatives shall have the exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment. Verified complaint for impeachment. Who will file? A verified complaint for impeachment may be filed by A. Any member of the House of Representatives, or B. By any citizen upon a resolution of endorsement by any member thereof. Senate's sole power to try and decide impeachment. The Senate shall have the sole power to try and decide all cases of impeachment. Extent of judgment in cases of impeachment. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removal from office and disqualification to hold any office under the Republic of the Philippines. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to prosecution, trial, and punishment according to law. The present anti-graft court. The present anti-graft court, known as the Sandigan Bayan, shall continue to function and exercise its jurisdiction as now or hereafter may be provided by law. Creation of the Office of the Ombudsman. There is hereby created the independent Office of the Ombudsman, composed of A. The Ombudsman to be known as Tanod Bayan. B. One overall deputy and at least one deputy each for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. C. A deputy for the military establishment may likewise be appointed. Qualification of the Ombudsman and his deputies. A. Natural-born citizens. B. At least 40 years old. C. Of recognized probity and independence. D. Members of the Philippine Bar. E. Must not have been candidates for any elective office in the immediately preceding election. F. 10 years experience as judge in the practice of law in the Philippines. Ranks of chairman and members of the Ombudsman and his deputies. The Ombudsman and his deputies shall have the rank of chairman and members, respectively, of the Constitutional Commissions. And they shall receive the same salary, which shall not be decreased during their term of office. Tenure of the Ombudsman and his deputies. 7 years without reappointment. The Ombudsman and his deputies, as protectors of the people. The Ombudsman and his deputies, as protectors of the people, A. Shall act promptly on complaints filed in any form or manner against public officials or employees of the government, or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, including government-owned or controlled corporations, and b. shall, in appropriate cases, notify the complainants of the action taken and the result thereof. Powers, functions, and duties of the Office of the Ombudsman. 1. Investigate on its own, or on complaint by any person, any act or omission of any public official, employee, office or agency, when such act or omission appears to be illegal, unjust, improper, or inefficient. 2. Direct, upon complaint or at its own instance, any public official or employee of the government, or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, as well as of any government-owned or controlled corporation with original charter, to perform and expedite any act or duty required by law, or to stop, prevent, and correct any abuse or impropriety in the performance of duties. 3. Direct the officer concerned to take appropriate action against a public official or employee at fault, and recommend his removal, suspension, demotion, fine, censure, or prosecution, and ensure compliance therewith. 4. Direct the officer concerned, in any appropriate case, and subject to such limitations as may be provided by law, to furnish it with copies of documents relating to contracts or transactions entered into by his office involving the disbursement or use of public funds or properties, and report any irregularity to the Commission on Audit for appropriate action. 5. Request any government agency for assistance and information necessary in the discharge of its responsibilities, and to examine, if necessary, pertinent records and documents. 6. Publicize matters covered by its investigation when circumstances so warrant and with due prudence. 7. Determine the causes of inefficiency, red tape, mismanagement, fraud, and corruption in the government and make recommendations for their elimination and the observance of high standards of ethics and efficiency. 8. Promulgate its rules of procedure and exercise such other powers or perform such functions or duties as may be provided by law. Right of the state to recover properties unlawfully acquired. The right of the state to recover properties unlawfully acquired by public officials or employees, from them or from their nominees or transferees, shall not be barred by prescription, laches, or estoppel. What is prescription? The establishment of a claim of title to something under common law, usually by use and enjoyment for a period fixed by law. Laches means is a lack of diligence and activity in making a legal claim. What is estoppel? It is a principle which precludes a person from asserting something contrary to what is implied by a previous action or statement of that person. No loan may be granted to. No loan, guarantee, or other form of financial accommodation for any business purpose may be granted, directly or indirectly, by any government-owned or controlled bank or financial institution to the a. President, b. Vice President, c. Members of the Cabinet, d. Congress, e. Supreme Court, f. Constitutional Commissions, g. The Ombudsman, h. or to any firm or entity in which they have controlling interest, during their tenure. Article 12. National Economy and Patrimony. The goals of the national economy. The goals of the national economy are a more equitable distribution of opportunities, income, and wealth. b. A sustained increase in the amount of goods and services produced by the nation for the benefit of the people, and c. An expanding productivity is the key to raising the quality of life for all, especially the underprivileged. Lands of the public domain. All lands of the public domain, waters, minerals, coal, petroleum, and other mineral oils, all sources of potential energy, fisheries, forests, or timber, wildlife, flora and fauna, and other natural resources are owned by the state. Inalienable lands of the state. All natural resources shall not be alienated, meaning, cannot be owned by private individual, except, of agricultural lands. Agreements foreign-owned corporations for technical or financial assistance. The President may enter into agreements with foreign-owned corporations involving either technical or financial assistance for large-scale exploration, development, and utilization of minerals, petroleum, and other mineral oils according to the general terms and conditions provided by law. Classifications of lands of public domain. 1. Agricultural. 2. Forest or timber. 3. Mineral lands. 4. National parks. Alienable lands of public domain. The only alienable lands of the public domain are agricultural lands. Prohibition to own land by private corporations. Private corporations or associations may not hold such alienable lands of the public domain except by lease, for a period not exceeding 25 years, renewable for not more than 25 years, and not to exceed 1,000 hectares in area. Citizens of the Philippines may lease. Citizens of the Philippines may lease not more than 500 hectares, or acquire not more than 12 hectares thereof by purchase, homestead, or grant. Protection of the rights of indigenous cultural communities. The state, subject to the provisions of this Constitution and national development policies and programs, shall protect the rights of indigenous cultural communities to their ancestral lands to ensure their economic, social, and cultural well-being. The use of property bears a social function. The use of property bears a social function, and all economic agents shall contribute to the common good. Individuals and private groups, including corporations, cooperatives, and similar collective organizations, shall have the right to own, establish, and operate economic enterprises, subject to the duty of the state to promote distributive justice and to intervene when the common good so demands. Ban on foreigner to own land, except, save in cases of hereditary succession, no private lands shall be transferred or conveyed except to individuals, corporations, or associations qualified to acquire or hold lands of the public domain. Former natural-born Filipino may be a transferee. A natural-born citizen of the Philippines who has lost his Philippine citizenship may be a transferee of private lands, subject to limitations provided by law. Preferential use of Filipino labor, materials, goods. The state shall promote the preferential use of Filipino labor, domestic materials, and locally produced goods, and adopt measures that help make them competitive. Practice of all professions. The practice of all professions in the Philippines shall be limited to Filipino citizens, save in cases prescribed by law. Takeover of operation of any privately owned public utility. In times of national emergency, when the public interest so requires, the state may, during the emergency and under reasonable terms prescribed by it, temporarily take over or direct the operation of any privately owned public utility or business affected with public interest. The state may establish and operate vital industries. The state may, in the interest of national welfare or defense, establish and operate vital industries and, upon payment of just compensation, transfer to public ownership utilities and other private enterprises to be operated by the government. State shall regulate or prohibit monopolies. The state shall regulate or prohibit monopolies when the public interest so requires. No combinations in restraint of trade or unfair competition shall be allowed. Provision on foreign loans. Foreign loans may only be incurred in accordance with law and the regulation of the monetary authority. Information on foreign loans obtained or guaranteed by the government shall be made available to the public. Article 13. Social justice and human rights. Promotion of social justice. The promotion of social justice shall include the commitment to create economic opportunities based on freedom of initiative and self-reliance. Right to join trade unions. The state shall afford full protection to labor, local and overseas, organized and unorganized, and promote full employment and equality of employment opportunities for all. Rights of all workers to self-organization, collective bargaining. The state shall guarantee the rights of all workers to a. Self-organization, b. Collective bargaining and negotiations, and peaceful concerted activities, c. To strike in accordance with law, d. Security of tenure, e. Humane conditions of work, f. A living wage, g. They shall also participate in policy and decision-making processes affecting their rights and benefits as may be provided by law. Principle of shared responsibility. The state shall promote the principle of shared responsibility between workers and employers, and the preferential use of voluntary modes in settling disputes, including conciliation, and shall enforce their mutual compliance therewith to foster industrial peace. Agrarian Reform Program. The state shall, by law, undertake an agrarian reform program founded on the right of farmers and regular farm workers, who are landless, to own directly or collectively the lands they till or, in the case of other farm workers, to receive a just share of the fruits thereof. Rights of farmers, farm workers. The state shall recognize the right of farmers, farm workers, and landowners, as well as cooperatives, and other independent farmers' organizations to participate in the planning, organization, and management of the program, and shall provide support to agriculture through appropriate technology and research, and adequate financial, production, marketing, and other support services. Rights of subsistence fishermen. The state shall protect the rights of subsistence fishermen, especially of local communities, to the preferential use of the communal marine and fishing resources, both inland and offshore. Urban land reform and housing. The state shall, by law, and for the common good, undertake, in cooperation with the private sector, a continuing program of urban land reform and housing which will make available at affordable cost decent housing and basic services to underprivileged and homeless citizens in urban centers and resettlement areas. Protection of working women. The state shall protect working women by providing safe and healthful working conditions, taking into account their maternal functions, and such facilities and opportunities that will enhance their welfare and enable them to realize their full potential in the service of the nation. Human Rights Commission, CHR. Composition. there is hereby created an independent office called the Commission on Human Rights. Composition: A. Chairman, and B. 4 members. Qualifications of Commission on Human Rights. A. Natural-born citizens. B. Members of the Bar. Powers and functions: the Commission on Human Rights. 1. Investigate, on its own or on complaint by any party, all forms of human rights violations involving civil and political rights. 2. Adopt its operational guidelines and rules of procedure, and cite for contempt for violations thereof in accordance with the rules of court. 3. Provide appropriate legal measures for the protection of human rights of all persons within the Philippines, as well as Filipinos residing abroad, and provide for preventive measures and legal aid services to the underprivileged whose human rights have been violated or need protection. 4. Exercise visitatorial powers over jails, prisons, or detention facilities. 5. Establish a continuing program of research, education, and information to enhance respect for the primacy of human rights. 6. Recommend to the Congress effective measures to promote human rights and to provide for compensation to victims of violations of human rights, or their families, protection of victims' rights. 7. Monitor the Philippine government's compliance with international treaty obligations on human rights, treaty ratification. 8. Grant immunity from prosecution to any person whose testimony or whose possession of documents or other evidence is necessary or convenient to determine the truth in any investigation conducted by it or under its authority. 9. Request the assistance of any department, bureau, office, or agency in the performance of its functions. 10. Appoint its officers and employees in accordance with law, and 11. Perform such other duties and functions as may be provided by law. Congress may provide for other cases of violations of human rights. The Congress may provide for other cases of violations of human rights that should fall within the authority of the Commission, taking into account its recommendations.